Well, welcome to the 2012 Sail Points for the San Diego Argonauts. We have the Sail Pts up right now. We're going to have 3 races today. We have races each month. We keep track throughout the year and have a club champion for each of the classes at the end of the year. The wind is about, I'd say 6 knots or so out of the west. It's shifting between the west and the southwest. That start line you see between the 2 blue buoys is a fair line if the wind's out of the west. If it shifts to the southwest, then that far end of the line is going to be favored. That's where the shifts have come from primarily. So my thought is to try to be about at the middle of the line with clear air, moving at the start, and get off to a good clean air start under speed. About 5 seconds till the start right now. Okay, I am the red boat that's out in the lead there. I've got a miniature camera mounted on my hat. Wherever my head looks is the picture you're going to see. So I've got clear air. Starboard tack is holding pretty well. I've tacked over to port, not particularly because I got headed, but another boat, 1616, which is closer to you on the screen, tacked over, and I wanted to stay reasonably close to him. That's Filippo, and he is past several-time national champion, very good sailor, so I didn't want to let him get away all by himself.
Oh, that was the thing to do.
Now I've got myself into some light air here. Again, I'm the red hull, kind of in the middle of the screen. Went over to starboard, there wasn't much air. Decided to bail out of that and went back onto port. Tacking in this light wind, not a good thing to be doing. So that was that's not what I really wanted to do, but it's what I did. Hindsight's always 20/20, of course. So you can see the wind's gotten quite a bit lighter. This is just a couple of knots of wind. The port tack, or excuse me, the shift to the southwest of the wind has shifted around, and you can see that on port tack we're lifted up a lot more than we were before. There's not a lot of air. In 711, the black boat on the right hand side, you can see he's moving along nicely. You can see how high he is sailing on port. He's pretty much headed up the pond. I'm not sure that lift's going to hold, but he's doing fine. I'm a little further out to the left. I'm not getting that good wind yet. And while you're sailing in these light conditions, I'll tell you that my eyes are just glued on the jib telltales, trying to keep the boat moving. Now it looks like I'm bailing out again.
Ouch, 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 ouch.
Not sure this was a good move. Sometimes I find myself getting a little bit nervous, and I start tacking the boat and doing some things that, you know, it'd be better if I just had a little more patience, just literally held the course of my boat, and just tried to sail it through the light spots and keep it going. Now, as it turns out, that wind has filled in a little bit better from the southwest, so port tack looks pretty good. I've got a boat just to leeward of me, that yellow hulled boat. I have to be concerned about him. Leeward boat has right of way, of course. We're coming up to the weather mark. It's just going to come into view behind one of the boats. There it is. That's the weather mark. And then there's an offset mark. We're going to reach around that. So the wind had shifted, actually maybe a little bit, not only the west, but maybe a little bit to the northwest.
Shorty.
Got a little bit of puff. I got around in reasonably good shape. So I got around the weather mark in second place, right behind the leader, so I felt pretty good about that. We're going to go around this offset mark, and then we're going to head downwind, and again, depending on what the wind's doing, that can be a little bit of just a beam reach, maybe with the wind back on our right hip, our starboard hip. So this is pretty light wind, and we're working downwind. This is going to be a little bit painful, but the reason I do these videos is for myself, to educate myself, go back and look at the races and what happened, learn some things. In this case, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, you know what, I tacked a couple of times. I did a couple of tacks that probably I would have been better if I just kept my boat going in the same direction and didn't worry about it too much. I had no compelling reason to be tacking the boat. And when you tack it, you're going to lose speed. And of course, you can put yourself in a vulnerable position if you're tacking and you've got some traffic around you. So we can see that the wind's filled in a little bit more back from the near side where we're walking. I'm kind of getting left behind up there on the far side of the pond with some other boats. The other boats have jibed over to port and are working their way across. And you can see the wind filling in a little bit on the water. So what I try to do is get a reasonably good start. I did get a good start, and then try to sail on the lifts. In this case, it was just about sand, trying to stay in the wind and get to the weather mark. So let's break off here with race number 1, and we're going to go to race number 2 now. Okay, here is race number 2. The wind's filled in just a touch more, and of course we'll be working the weather, so that'll give us a little bit more apparent wind. Wind still primarily out of the west, some shifts coming from the southwest. Boats are maneuvering around probably 15-20 seconds until the start. Start line again, the 2 blue buoys that you see a little bit to the left of the center of the screen. I'm the red boat in the center of the screen. My strategy, my goal is to be about at the middle of the line, at speed, moving. 10 seconds until the start now. There's the start bell. I was a little bit late, and you know what? I wound up at the pin end. I didn't want to get with all the traffic, all the boats that were ahead of me. So I held back a little bit, and that worked out okay. That wind stayed out of the west. I am concerned that the wind wanted to shift out of the southwest, which would have been a header for me off on starboard and put me behind a lot of boats. So I've got clear air. I'm working out on starboard.
Damn it!
Things are looking pretty good. That was me walking along the edge of the pond and running into our dinghy.
Yeah, that'd be a three-peat, wouldn't it?
Okay, I have tacked over to port. Probably got headed up there a little bit, but also there's some glassy water up there. You can see how glassy that water is on, how glassy the water is on the far side. Didn't want to get too far over there. So I think I'm in pretty good shape right now. I wish we had a little stronger wind. You can see the boat down in the foreground, number 15. He's got some pretty good speed going. He's got some heel on the boat. I'm hoping I'm going to get some of that good wind too. I'm in a nice lift, a nice port tack lift right now. I'm sailing a little bit higher than the boat that's right in front of me, the yellow-hulled boat. I'm not sure if he's not on the wind or he's in a different wind. Yeah, I've gone down now a little bit, so maybe we're in a different wind. I've got my sails cracked just a touch, trying to make sure I've got the boat moving. Don't want to have everything strapped in close-hauled. We just don't have enough wind for that. Leave those sails a touch out. Get the boat moving for speed. If you can get some heel on the boat and the boat's moving pretty good, then you can think about bringing the sails in. But don't try to get the boat moving with the sails in. Now there's some pretty good air right there. I'm ducking the starboard tacker, of course. You can hear a little bit of wind blowing on the microphone. That's a good sign. I'm walking along the edge of the pond, of course. Tacked over to starboard. Got reasonably good air. You see nice air on the water. Got some ripples in there. Working out on starboard. Again, my belief is that the shifts are going to come from the left-hand side from that southwest, so I wanted to try to stay to the left of a lot of the traffic. In this case, it didn't work out real well. That's the weather mark we're coming up to right now. I got to the ley line. I tacked. So I'm close to the leaders. I'd like to be in a little bit better position than that, but I'm reasonably close to the leaders, so I felt okay about that. And that wind is a little bit stronger than it's been in the earlier races. So again, my goal, clear air at the start, be moving. I was at the pin end. One of the advantages of doing that is you can obviously see your sails, so it's easier to control your boat, make sure your boat's trimmed correctly and sailing at speed. but it also gives you the option to tack at any point you want to while you're working up on starboard. And if I would have gotten headed, that would have been my cue to tack. I don't think that happened. I think the wind held for us in this case, but it gives you an option, and having options is always, on the race course, having options is always something you want to strive for. So we're working downwind. Again, the wind's a little bit light. I think we'll break off here and we'll hit the last race, race number 3. Okay, here's our third and last race for the Soling 50s. Again, I'm the red boat, center of your screen. I think that was 30 seconds, I just heard the announcer say. I'm on the wrong side of the course, but I'm watching all these boats work down, and I was happy with my pin-in start before, so I'm lagging behind a little bit. 10 seconds. So I'm just making sure I've got a clear spot down in the line. Nobody's pushing me over the line. There's the bell going off. I got up to close hauled, and I thought I was a little bit headed, and so I tacked over onto port immediately. And of course, I've got this thought in the back of my mind that the wind wants to shift out of the southwest from the west, so port tack would be the right tack to be on. So I tacked pretty quick, and I've gotten out with a reasonable lead. Looks like the wind's okay. This wind has been up and down. There are some holes out there. I've kind of slowed down at this point, but you can see most of the boats have gone over to port tack. I'm not sailing very high at this point, but I'm just trying to keep my boat moving. Look at whatever the wind's doing. I'm looking at the telltales. Right now, my total clue is looking at the telltales of my boat, making sure I'm sailing the boat on the wind, and in this light air that those sails aren't strapped in too tight when I have the boat moving. Not pointing a lot. That's not where the emphasis is. The boat, I want to have the boat moving. If I can get it moving, then I can try bringing the sails in. But if I lose that speed, then let those sails back off, drive that boat. These are the kinds of conditions I think that having a boat that's close to the minimum weight are important. When the wind's up, I think it's much less an issue, but in the lighter conditions like this, you don't want a heavy boat, because what that means is you're just pushing more water out of the way as you're moving along, which is resistance. There's a nice picture of the boat. This boat, number 81, mine, it's very well balanced. Got it tuned up, I think, reasonably well. Those are very light air sails. That's Test 505 material, as a matter of fact. So very, very sensitive to the wind shifts. It's almost a paper-like material. These sails are pretty old, but they still work very well. And again, lighter air is really good. You can kind of see the wind on the water. See those ripples. You can see the telltales on my jib. Oop, you see that collapse right there. That was a little bit of a wind shift, and of course I was getting close to the edge, so I was looking for any excuse to go bail out. So that wind did shift to the west, or maybe even the northwest. Got me almost making the mark here. Let's see, I just headed up a little bit, get myself around the mark, use my momentum to carry me around the mark, and I've got a pretty good lead on the rest of the fleet behind me. So we're off to the races, as they say here. That wind looks pretty light. Look how glassy that water is up there toward the offset mark. So again, my objective, get a good clean air start, be moving, be on the line. Try to sail on the lifts. In this case, I think it's more about just making sure you're sailing in the wind, getting to the weather mark. And if you can do that, you get yourself to the weather mark in good shape. I think the rest of the race takes care of itself. So I think with that, we'll sign off for today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll hope to see you at our next month's Sail Point races. Take care.